Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Jake Hurwitz. He's the founder of Eyesight Collective. Jake, how you doing today, man?
Doing well. How are you?
I am wonderful, Jake. So we met in a Facebook group, I think that we're both a part of, ended up connecting on LinkedIn. Love what you and your team are doing at Eyesight Collective. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about the company and what you guys are all about over there?
Totally. So I'm 22 years old. I just graduated from University of Colorado at Boulder. And I started my first company during my sophomore year. And through that experience, was coming in contact with hundreds of other students, both at CU and all around the country, that were really having a hard time with basic business soft skills, things like writing good emails, communicating effectively with older employees, networking, having the confidence to just ask questions, stuff like that. And so I started to dive really deep into this problem. We learned that it was a huge issue in the workforce, mostly among millennials right now, where kids are coming out of school, really know how to read a balance sheet or, write some code, but they don't know how to write good emails. They can't carry themselves professionally. So what we do at Eyesight is we create online courses with industry leaders, people that students and recent grads really look up to in the industry. And through those courses, which are kind of styled like an HBO show, so that they're really engaging and fun and captivating, they're able to communicate the skills that students need to know. And then through the course itself, there's a video for every chapter that's about 15 to 20 minutes long, a workbook that actually takes the lessons that they're hearing in the course and giving them a place to apply it to their own life, and then a discussion forum where students and mentors can ask questions, engage, network with each other, and then it's up to my team and I to connect people around the country and actually facilitate and foster growth and coffee meetings and a place for people to truly thrive and connect with mentors and learn the skills that school isn't teaching them. Most of their parents aren't teaching them the skills that employers and the real world is actually needing right now.
All right, Jake. So we were talking offline, and something that you are incredibly passionate about is branding. It's something that you find yourself talking about often. And when we're digging into that, kind of what goes into branding, how can brands really establish a brand that's going to resonate with people? The first thing that comes to mind for you is, the reality that they need to understand their why. We've had Simon Sinek on the show in the past, and he is obviously a massive advocate for this idea that, you have to start with your why. From your perspective, Jake, why is the why so important?
Yeah, I think because at the end of the day, we've all heard it so many times, building a company is really, really hard. Things are going to suck. There are going to be a lot of ebbs and flows, and you need to be able to get through that. And I think when it just comes down to, look, we've got a great market size and a great opportunity here, and this could be a really great business. We can solve some interesting problems. That's not enough to get you through, personally, the really hard times. But when at the end of the day, what you're trying to solve is like deeply rooted in your heart and in your soul, then you can't not but keep going. I mean, that's the only option. What I constantly, kind of an exercise I do when I meet with a lot of startups to help them build the brand is I'll ask them, so what do you do? And they'll give me an answer. And I say, so why do you do that? An example we could give is a company making pasta, for example. So what do you guys do? Oh, we make organic, locally sourced pasta. So, okay, why do you do that? And that's where they sort of look at me like, I'm not really sure. Well, okay, we do it because people really like pasta and we love pasta. And I ask again, why? And then people start to struggle and they kind of look at their co-founders and they laugh a little bit. I'm like, seriously, why? Keep going, keep diving deeper. And I ask them why 4 or 5 times, sometimes 6 or 7 times, until they truly can touch that sweet spot deep in their own heart and in their soul as to why they're really doing what they're doing. And I think the hard part is that so many founders, when I'm going through this exercise with them, they start to realize that they don't really know why, and that's not good. Yeah. So where I encourage founders is to, from the beginning or very often, even when things are changing, get honest with yourself, get really honest with your co-founders and your team, and push each other to be like, why are you doing this? Why are you showing up today? Like, ask why 5 times. You want people to cry. You want people to break down. You want them to laugh. You want to hug each other. You want to really get to that level. Because without knowing those things, when times get tough and when the startup starts to take a different turn, you're going to just walk away because that's the easy solution. Someone told me recently, you're never going to fail. You're only going to give up at some point. And I think it's a lot easier to give up when you haven't identified the true, real reason why you're doing what you're doing.
I love that. That's really great, Jake. So this next piece that we talked about were really, practical questions that you can ask yourself to help establish, this brand identity. Talk to us about what some of these questions are and why they're so helpful.
Yeah, totally. The first one is a good example, but the idea is ask yourself kind of these bizarre questions about who or what your brand itself is. The first one is, how would you describe your brand if it were a child on the playground? I'm talking, paint a picture for me about who your brand is. So an example might be, our brand is she's the girl that's standing on top of the jungle gym, like totally chanting. She's got all the kids around her at the bottom getting ready to play kickball. She's like picking teams, totally the leader. She's got ripped jeans on and a tank top that's all covered in mud because she doesn't care about getting dirty. Her name is Evelyn. She's 9 years old, blah, blah, blah. Go to that level. So what that does is helps you understand, like, how do people perceive your brand, first of all, when they just come across it, because people come across thousands of brands on a daily basis. What's sort of their immediate perception of it? And this is more on the company side. So how would we describe it internally? What keywords do we want to come to mind when people think about our brand? Is it elegant? Is it spunky? Is it funny? Is it driven? Is it weird? So think of those keywords, and if you can understand really who you are as a brand and as like an entity, if it were a child on the playground, for example, then you really are able to dial in and build every single thing that you release to the public around that. And that's kind of just an example of the types of questions you want to be asking. Another good one is, if your brand was a sandwich, what type of sandwich would it be? What type of ice cream would it be? Stuff like that. If your brand was an article of clothing, like what style of clothing would it be? You need to understand those pieces.
Okay. So this next piece we're going to talk about, we've talked about in the past quite a bit. It's around buyer personas, understanding your customer avatars. I don't want to spend a lot of time here, Jake, because I think a lot of the folks, listening have a strong grasp around this. But as we were talking about it offline, I think it's still important to mention here, talk to us about strong customer avatars. And you've actually got a brand that has done this really well that I'd love for you to share a story about as well.
Totally. So I think the matched up piece to the child on a playground part is, who is your customer? Describe your customer as if they were kind of like the child on the playground. So you need to understand who they are. What's their name? Where do they work? How many hours a week are they working? How many kids do they have? All that stuff. And I know that a lot of CMOs and people that are in marketing, this is very common practice to understand these avatars, these personas. But if you're able to match up the person that you are selling to with the child on the playground, that is your brand. If they're really the same person, then you're going to win, or you're at least one step closer to winning. And that's really the ultimate goal here. There's a company that I work with often here in Denver called Revelar, founded by Jacqueline Rose and a couple others. And so what they do is they create a wearable device that when you click the button, it alerts your friends and loved ones when you're either feeling in an uncomfortable situation or when you're safe, in an effort to eradicate sexual assault globally. And their mantra is safety for all. And so when Jacqueline and her team launched their first product, the goal was, okay, we want to go after the female college student who likes to go out, likes to have fun, but wants to feel safe. And what they found after a couple months of being in the market was that while, yes, that was a great customer for them, they were experiencing tons of customers that they didn't even originally intend for, like a kid in middle school who wants to alert his friends or parents that their home's safe because they're afraid of bullying, or an older adult who wants to alert their children, their older kids, when they fall down and need help getting up, kind of like life alert. And so what they then had to do was go in and really dig deep into who these sort of secondary and tertiary customers were that they originally didn't expect would happen, and really get to know them, so that now when they're advertising on Facebook or launching an ad on Indiegogo or a campaign on Indiegogo, for example, they can target all those different groups very effectively. And I think they've done a really good job in doing so.
Love it. All right, Jake, we don't have a whole lot of time, but there's two other pieces that I want to talk with you about. This first piece is around the value that the brand brings the person that they're trying to serve. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I think that when you're talking to your customers or you're talking to the founders, you need to make sure that you truly believe that your product could, quote unquote, change the world. If you're simply just going after like solving a little problem for a little group of people, but because there's a good market opportunity and maybe they'll pay a lot for it. Yes, that's like, it could be a good business, but it kind of goes back to your why. I mean, you need to really fill the hole in somebody's heart. You really need to like touch their soul and touch every piece of them. Otherwise, you're not really providing that much value. And how do you become a lasting business with that? I think Simon Sinek does a really good job in communicating that as well.
Yeah. No, totally. This last piece, Jake, before I let you go today, is matching your style, either as a founder or as a marketer, to come out in the brand itself. There's a brand called Shinesty that you were telling me about before the call that does an exceptional job of this. But talk to us about this. I think this point is incredibly important for us to drive home. Yeah,
so I was talking to the founder of Shinesty, Chris White, a couple months ago about branding. So Shinesty they make irreverent, ridiculous clothing, a lot of like 80s vintage style stuff for the sake of partying and having fun and not taking life too seriously. And they just built an amazing brand around that and have a pretty decent following on social media. They are now in a show that's going to be launched on MTV pretty soon, which is sweet. And everyone around Colorado loves these guys. So the first thing Chris said was, your brand is your soul, when him and I were talking. I was like, interesting. Tell me a little bit more about that. And he said, the brand has to truly come from inside the souls of the founders. Yeah. For them, they hang out on comedy blogs all day. When they like to shotgun beers with their friends on Saturdays, and they like to make a slip and slide after work and the weekends and whatnot. And when they're posting pictures and videos of them doing ridiculous things like belly flopping into pools or riding horses with their shirts off, they're actually doing that stuff because that's what they do. They love it. And so Chris kind of concluded by saying that because this was the type of person that he was and the type of people that him and his friends were, they're able to really understand and put forth their own personality into the brand. If they were trying to build a brand around like elegance and clean lines and a lot of light colors, maybe for a wedding brand, for example, or a publication, they just couldn't do it because it's not who they are. Even though that's what their market might want, then they're in the wrong market. They're going after the wrong thing. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like the fact that he's able to go to work every single day with his great friends and his coworkers that are all like truly doing what they love and not just kind of pushing through the motions of what the market demands. First of all, they love what they're doing more than anyone else. Yeah. And they're able to work 100 hours a week, which doesn't even feel like work, and they're going to win because of that.
That's phenomenal insight. I think Gary Vee talks about that so much, just being authentic to who you are, because people see it. And I think it drives so much of what the effort that you can put in. And I think the loyalty that you end up getting from the people that are ultimately purchasing, your product or service. Jake, this has been fantastic. If there's somebody listening to this, maybe they want to connect with you deeper on this stuff, or they want to learn more about Eyesight Collective, what's the best way for them to go about doing both of those things?
Yeah, totally. You can go to eyesightcollective.com. That's EYESIGHT Collective. And that's a great place to check out our blog where we post stuff daily or every other day. It's all about like business for millennials and standing out in a job or starting companies and stuff like that. So the blog's a really good spot, as well as social media. So we're really active on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, posting stuff daily. And then our first online course for young entrepreneurs was launched a couple months ago. And so that's a really good opportunity to actually check out our product. And I'd be happy to offer a coupon code as well for anyone listening to B2B Growth for a download.
Love it. And what is that? What is that coupon code?
I'll tell you what, I could do 30% off if it's B2B Growth, all lowercase B2B Growth, and then you could even communicate that as well if you want to in a more professional way, James.
Okay. Got it. Sweet, man. So, Jake, this has been fantastic. I think our listeners are going to get a ton of value out of this, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really fun.
If you're a B2B marketer, we want to feature you on sites like the Huffington Post, Social Media Examiner, and Chief Marketer. Every week, we send out a question related to B2B marketing. We use the responses to those questions to fuel the content we write for really popular websites. So head over to sweetfishmedia.com/questions and sign up today.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.